And hut hut, and welcome back everybody to another edition here of the Mass Steel Podcast. With of course yours truly, Charles Prodigy Richey here. We are just getting started right now. It is Victory Monday here on this Mass Steel Podcast edition. Once again, for anybody who maybe just saw the replay of the game or just getting in tune this weekend, Steelers are off to their best start in forever. And Bill Cowher has not done it. Mike Tomlin's been the first coach to do it since Chuck Noll's team back in 1979 to have a 4-0 start for this season right now. Looking pretty good so far. The only thing I will just say, my biggest takeaways, pass and the running game got a little gashed up yesterday by the Eagles. But at the end of the day, the pass rush at the end of the day found a way to get to Carson Wentz. Like I said, in that contest, they were able to dig deep and just hang on for victory. But right there, I mean, Chase Claypool, no doubt about it. I said, the game ball definitely went out to him yesterday when we took a look at it, and really just did a lot in this contest for right now. Again, we're getting ready to count down for the Cleveland Browns right now, who are off to a sizzling start. This is no more the pushover Browns right now that everybody's been accustomed to since he returned to Cleveland, had that one playoff appearance. I get it. They're still beating some questionable teams right there, but they just beat a good Colts team, in my opinion, who actually beat the Chicago Bears in Chicago a week ago. They beat them by 9 points right there. I will agree with Baker Mayfield. They do got some savages on that team right there. And not only that, I mean, you're going to be having to play a Myles Garrett, too, this time around. I think he was suspended for the last game when the Steelers did face them. But I tell you what, this Browns team is no joke. I expect this Sunday to be a shootout coming up in Heinz Field, if you ask me. I really do. I really expect it to be that. But for right now, I want to hear your thoughts, Steel Nation. For the time being, what do you guys feel about yesterday's game? Are you a little bit nervous right now? Or what's your overall pulse on this Browns opponent team right now coming into Heinz Field? Listen, I mean, don't get me wrong. I definitely do feel like the Steelers are more the better all-around team defensively. But if you're seeing, the only thing I'm getting very concerned with, there's just times where the Steelers are allowing the quarterbacks to get too comfortable at times. Yeah, they're one of the most top blitz teams in the NFL when we take a look at it as far as like this season, what they've been able to do as a defense unit. Probably Keith Butler's best work to date. I mean, since being coordinator for this team in his sixth season with the Steelers as a defensive coordinator. I mean, listen, I mean, this is a team right now who definitely feels like they got at least one last legit crack at a Super Bowl crown when we look at it. And when we truly think about it here, like I said, they're no joke. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers right now rank third in blitz percentage with sending off 65 blitzes on the quarterback right now. I'm not sure how many dropbacks there are. This is coming from Pro Football Reference from that site right there. I mean, that is the biggest thing when we take a look at it right here for the time being. And we are just getting started right now. Again, if you guys want to follow me on social media, you can definitely check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Prodigy Richey. Mainly tweeting and posting stuff from my Twitter page these days and here and there to Instagram. For the Mass Steel Podcast, which I usually do tweet my stuff on, it is at Mass Steel CJR on Twitter, at Mass Steel Nation on Instagram. And then you could also check out my latest Mass Steel podcast. We can check out on anchor.fm by simply searching Crunch Time Presents, Mass Steel Podcast, and On Deck, which shares my podcast to Breaker Audio, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, CPBC, and Spotify USA. So if you ever missed a podcast, you can check it out on those platforms, as well as Mixcloud and SoundCloud as of today. And so let's go ahead and get right to business here. As noted by Steelers reporter Missy Matthews, Steelers defense recorded 5 sacks and 2 interceptions on Sunday. Pittsburgh is the fourth team since 2000 to register at least 3 sacks and an interception in each of the 4 games of the season, joined the Bears 2018 and the Broncos, who did that twice in 2009 and 2016. And when we take a look at it right now, the Steelers do lead the league in sacks, by the way. They took that crown right back away from the Eagles. As for 4 games, they got 20 sacks. The second most behind them is the LA Rams right now, who's actually playing a good bounce back season this year as we really look at it. But you know what? I tell you what, for this year, we'll see how that continues to go. This is a team that is primed and ready for the first time in franchise history that 4 straight consecutive seasons of 50 sacks or more. And we'll find out how that continues to roll down the hill. Like I said, I like the 4-0 start, but the biggest thing is, too, when you look at how tight this race is in the standings right now, let's be honest with each other for right now. You got to capitalize winning the division, making a deep playoff run, at least try and end it with a Super Bowl some way or another. Because if not, it's not going to mean much. You still have they're barely ahead of the Ravens by about half game at this point. And when we truly break it down, they haven't faced any divisional games yet. That's going to start this week when we take a look at it. I mean, when we take a look at it, like 2 out of the next 3 games will be against AFC North opponents, beginning this Sunday, of course, with the Browns. And then your next AFC North division opponent, which would have been on the 25th, the Titans had not tested positive for COVID-19 and had to have their weekend canceled against the Steelers on October 4th. They're going to be facing the Titans instead on October 25th. And truly, I mean, that's the biggest thing right now. And I was just taking a look at the tie-breaking scenarios right now, especially with the Steelers and the Ravens, as we take a look at for this year. In case there's anyone wondering what is going on right now, Steelers right now are pretty much matching the Ravens right now. Just the only problem is they haven't had divisional opponents. This is where you got to strike the iron right now. And remember what I said, too. The thing about Mike Tomlin, too, I mean, this is the favorite month. It's Hottober, not October, Hottober. Remember that. And I own that word, by the way. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, I mean, the month of October is usually Mike Tomlin and the Steelers' favorite month where they really hit their tip-top peak. And in the month of October, once again, after yesterday's win, they are now 36-14-0 with a 720 win percent and a 303-point plus differential. So that is real good right there in that regard. But as far as like the AFC North right now, I mean, the biggest thing going right now is that the Steelers are keeping pace with the Ravens, despite the Steelers not losing any games. You got the Steelers right now in common games. They are 3-0 versus the Ravens, who are actually 4-0 in that category. Remember, the Ravens so far have started off by with their season early in the year by defeating the Browns, defeating the Houston Texans, defeating the Washington football team, and then, of course, the Bengals yesterday. So they're 4-0 in that category, while the Steelers, they beat everybody along the way. I mean, when we take a look at, I mean, with the Giants, Texans, and, of course, the Eagles so far in that regard. So they're 3-0 in that department. So that's the biggest thing you got to look at. You want to keep pace because in the same way, I can make the argument too. This season right now, it reminds me very similarly of 2010, 2008. You have to gain separation. You have to capitalize on this. I mean, I know I hear a lot of people saying right now, well, the Ravens, they don't really look all that great as people are portraying them. But at the end of the day, too, John Harbaugh finds a way to keep his team in the race, just as Mike Tomlin does. There is no secret why this guy is in his 13th year while Tomlin's in year number 14. John Harbaugh really has that niche when it comes to relaying the players, getting a game plan developed, and getting his team ready. I mean, that's the end of the day. I mean, he really knows how to get everybody all in and finds a way to get neck and neck with his team. Even when they last missed the playoffs back in 2017, they missed the playoffs by losing their final game of the regular season by being beat out by the Bengals in Baltimore. And you saw even just before they won the division right then. This is before they went into the offseason and drafted Lamar Jackson with the last pick in the first round of the 2018 draft. And you look at it right now, I mean, they are still a team to be reckoned with. And speaking of the Ravens yesterday, definitely beat the Bengals pretty handily in that contest. And I want to pull up right now how the Ravens were able to do in that contest. No doubt about it. I mean, you had Lamar Jackson throw for 180 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was limited on the ground this time around, so he only had 3 yards rushing. And then their leading rusher was Mark Ingram, the second in that game, with 57 yards off of 11 carries, 5.2 yards. But you still had a guy like Marquise Hollywood Brown right there step up, have 77 yards receiving off of 6 receptions, 12.8 yards average with 1 touchdown, with his longest being 30. He was targeted 10 times in that contest. And then you had the Ravens defense really light into the Bengals right there. 7 sacks in that contest. And that's a big thing right there in itself when we take a look at it. And I really feel like for right now, that's just really what it's going to boil down to. We're going to really find out how good the Steelers team is. You have to get this first win against the Browns out of the way. This is so vital. Don't care if you're starting off 4-0. That could pretty much go out the window in a hurry if you don't start out business. I like the start. I like the position where they're at. I mean, it's not like end of the world catastrophe, but at the same time, too, you want to start making your statement wins as soon as you get the opportunity. They're going to have playoff opportunities. I mean, of course, this one being their first crack at it, but you have to take care of business at the end of the day. You want to be all in, and you want to truly be ready at the end of the day, and make sure when you got a chance to knock on the door, kick it down before you go through. Yeah, if you guys want to join in here on the Mass Duel podcast, you can definitely do so by checking me out on my Facebook and Instagram page. Facebook page, Mass Steel Podcast. If you like it, you can just search it next time for @MassSteelNation, and on Instagram @MassSteelNation for right now. And we're getting a lot more stuff right now too for this time as we look at it. I mean, definitely some fun times right now. I don't know if anyone got a chance to watch the NBA Finals last night, the wrap up of the NBA bubble, their season. Congratulations to Adam Silver and the NBA, and of course LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers, as well as Jeannie Buss. I want to pay tribute to the one and only the late Dr. Jerry Buss, who passed away from this world 8 years ago, back in November 2012. When you think of that Lakers organization, you have to start with Jerry Buss right there, Jerry Buss, who came in there years. He came in there about 5 years after, or 4 years after Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was on that team, and this was a long post Jerry West and Wilt Chamberlain era when they last won the championship 8 years earlier. I mean, they delivered. I mean, Dr. Jerry Buss's legacy, 10 NBA championships to the Lakers franchise, and then when his daughter took over it from his sons after constant back and forth battle. It took a little over 3 years and 3.5 years in the process, but I guess the wait is well worth the worth right there. And Lakers find themselves bringing home championship banner number 17, tying the Boston Celtics right there. I gotta tell you, that was a good favorite Sunday of mine. Definitely a diehard Lakers fan, as well as covering the Steelers team. Love my Steelers, so it was fun. Got to enjoy. Any Lakers fans who are on this podcast, please make your shout out, please. If you guys want to brag about your Lakers championship and being a Steeler fan, I want to hear from you, please. I don't care, purple and gold, black and gold, whatever. You're more than welcome to on this podcast for tonight. And just congratulations to them once again, to one of the premier franchises, return rightfully back where it belongs, back on top. Championship banner number 17, which ties the Celtics. And this is the first time since 1962 that both teams had 17, who had the same amount of titles apiece. Both teams had 5 apiece at that point, and that's where we take a look at for right now. But again, we're just getting started here on the Mass Steel podcast right now, talking about the Steelers win over the Eagles right now, and now getting ready for their next matchup against the Browns in this contest when we look at. And one of the things, too, that was definitely noted right now, too, Browns who, this is the first time that now they started off 4-1 since 1994, and that was one of the second to last time they were in the playoffs. I mean, of course, they made it in 2002, but this was when Bill Belichick, once upon a time, coached the Browns for 5 seasons in his tenure there. Took them to the playoffs one time, had a playoff victory in the playoffs right there, and they just happened to come up short against the Pittsburgh Steelers in that run. When you look at it right there and what they were able to do, and right now, I mean, Cleveland right now, I mean, you hear the phrase all the time, Cleveland rocks. I tell you what, I think this is going to be a good fight in this game. Baker Mayfield, who in that game against the Colts, according to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, he injured his ribs in Sunday's win over the Colts. And right now, Browns analyst Tony Grossi says that X-rays were negative on Mayfield's ribs. Also, too, their secondary took another hit as safety Rodney Harrison returned interception for a touchdown Sunday, was placed in concussion protocol. Harrison started for Carl Joseph after he injured his hamstring in practice last week. Also, Kevin Stefanski said cornerback Greedy Williams will be placed on, or will be replaced on injured reserve with a nerve injury in his shoulder. Williams, a second-round pick in 2019, missed his 5th straight game with an injury the team didn't think was very serious when he got hurt in training camp right now. So there you go. Right now, when we look at it for this team right now, definitely playing with some house money at this point. I mean, I definitely feel like they have been up to this point, because when you look at like the Steelers versus the Browns too, I mean, the Browns for right now, when you look at, I mean, they're 2-1 in the AFC conference, but they're 5-1 in common games so far, having beat the Cowboys, beaten the Washington football team, the Indianapolis Colts, and the Houston Texans so far for right now. And that is really something to be commended right there by that team, what they've been able to do. And just really a quite impressive football team, to say the least. Actually, no, I take that back. I think they're forward. I think I made a mistake on that Texans game. Right now, let's continue to confirm on that. They have not faced the Texans yet, so my bad on that part. But yeah, they're 4-1. Like I said, beating the Washington football team, beating the Bengals, and then they beat the Cowboys, and then just only losing to the Ravens so far up to this point, and really well deservedly so. But I tell you what, it looks like we're going to be back to Steelers-Brown classic rivalry. We'll see how this continues, because I tell you what, the Steelers are not careful. Remember, they do finish out the season against the Browns. So, I mean, who's to say we may not get into a situation where maybe for playoff positioning or alone someone trying to get into the playoffs? That could be a reality right there. I mean, the Browns, I mean, for the longest time, usually have great starts. I mean, to a good first quarter of a season in recent memory. But the biggest thing that always continues to show up is that they do not properly finish. I mean, will this be the year? I think 2018 was their last time they really came legitimately close. And I think it was the weekend where the Steelers beat the Patriots. I think that was in week 15. And after the Steelers, I think when they beat the Patriots, I think that pretty much ended all hopes that the Browns had for at least trying to get into the playoffs with some help. And that was the biggest thing right there. Pretty much like slam the door shut. But, I mean, it was one hell of a run that year. I mean, under Mayfield's rookie season. I mean, of course, last year they finished off 6-10. I mean, look, this Browns is not a pushover team. I don't care what anyone says. Like I said, you have to make sure You're going in there business oriented. Make sure you're holding everybody accountable. And to be honest, you, I mean, just watching that game yesterday against the Eagles, I was saying to a friend of mine, just watching that, the only way they were going to lose that game if you beat yourselves. And that's the problem where the Steelers found out themselves once again here. I mean, in that issue, they almost beat themselves. And that's where I look at it for this moment in time as we continue to take a look right now going forward here on the Mass Steel podcast. And I definitely want to hear from you some more right now going in here too. Remember too, also the Pittsburgh Steelers, when we take a look at this season, another big interesting stat, which seems to stick out nicely. Right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point in time are one of only 5 teams that are unbeaten so far in the season. So the other teams you already got are the Bills and the Colts the Bills and the Titans in the AFC, followed by the Packers and Seahawks. And that's a pretty good company right now. And just for bragging purposes, I got Russell Wilson, my starting fantasy for right now. I don't know if anyone's doing any fantasy football. How many people are doing fantasy? He's my starting quarterback. Pretty much, I want to say, arguably be my MVP, I would have to say, for right now. So we'll see how that continues to roll right there for the time being. And when we look at it and see what continues to unfold right there. What we're going to take a look at for right now is take a look at what happens for the time being. But also, too, for right now, the Brown, according to Jason over the cap.com, this is one thing to be reckoned with coming up for the Steelers in the future. According to Over the Cap, the Steelers will be one of 10 teams over the cap, and they're looking at them to be over by $28.3 million over the cap, which could really put a big damper on things right there for right now in 2021. That's where they're being projected to be if the salary cap were to drop down to like $176 million. And this comes from Jason over the cap for right now. When we look at it, I mean, of course, I mean, that could still change. We have no idea what it's going to look like, but we're going to find out. I mean, how much that's going to like really take a look at. And yeah, it's really definitely an interesting to reckon with. I mean, obviously right now you want to focus on what you got on hand, but let's see how this season continues to like play itself out. So that's going to do it for this edition here of the Man of Steel podcast. I'm going to skip on fair foul. I'm going to put on that for tonight, but we'll get back into that on Wednesday. Try and have some guests lined up over here right now. And then also, too, I just pray for Dak Prescott right now, who had a nasty ankle injury right there. Season looks like it's over. And a guy who had to sign for a franchise tag right now might – future may be over, and I'm not sure how much his career is going to be at stake as a result of this. But good thing to see a guy like Alex Smith, who had his ankle hurt a couple of years ago, going for hell and back, man. He was able to get into a game yesterday, even though it was a losing effort. But just nice to see guys who got it out, and good things to come to those who finish last, I guess you could say. So anyway, that's going to do it for this edition here of the Mass Joe Podcast. Once again, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Prodigy Richey. For the Mass Steel Podcast on Twitter, it is at Mass Steel CGR, and on Instagram at Mass Steel Nation. As always, leave it. Don't be trolling, be rolling. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. I gone.